Hello, welcome back to LA Show. Thank you guys so much for tuning back in with me. Today we have Cisco here with us. Hello, Cisco.
Hello, LA. How you doing?
I'm doing
I'm doing
okay.
okay.
How are you?
How are you? I'm good. I'm good.
Good. Well, we got some things to talk about with the CB and updates because things are happening rapidly fast. So, um, what's going on, Cisco? What's going on?
Well, it's like the breaking of a pearl necklace. Once the first pearl drops, the whole damn shit drops, and there's a lot going on. So I'm just gonna run through some headlines on some articles. You guys have to excuse me. I am in my squeaky chair. Um, So I'm just gonna run through some articles. I might do a little bit of reading, but I'm gonna try to keep the articles just to headlines so you guys can do your own research. So the first thing is the corona CV stimulus, which is supposed to be 1,000 per person, followed by more if national emergency is still in place. I'm just going to read a little short thing regarding the $1 trillion plan being proposed. Munchin spoke first about the 300 billion that goes to small businesses to be used for hiring people, keeping people on the payroll. The secretary said if those rules are followed, there will be a loan forgiveness on that afterwards. Munchin then spoke about the direct stimulus to American people. The second component, and I'm still reading, just so you guys know. Second component, and I refer to this as checks in the mail, but that's the real money direct deposited. Most people will have their information, and the plan is 500 billion in two tranches. The first one will be 1,000 per person, 500 per child. So for a family of four, that's a $3,000 payment. As soon as Congress passes this, we can get this out in 3 weeks. And then 6 weeks later, if the president still has a national emergency, we'll deliver another 3,000. So that's a lot of money to hardworking Americans who are at home, no fault of theirs. Munchin added that the third component is a 200 billion that we would use for more facilities with the Fed, like we've been doing for secured lending to airlines and for other critical industries. Um, Also, today when I was compiling my notes, I saw a live address by President Trump, and he said that it's a lot more than $1,000 per person. So that kind of goes along with that article. The next article is from the Daily Wire. Um, Bayer is donates 3 million tablets of coronavirus fighting drug to the U.S. government. This is a drug that they use to fight malaria, and it's currently being tested in China. Personally, I don't know how I feel about that because Bayer is the same company that had HIV laced pills back in the day. You guys can look that up if it's still out there, if they haven't blocked it off the internet. But that's one company that's trying to. Well, actually, they've already donated 3 million tablets. Another one on Daily Wire is it's on the same subject. Is that Trump says that the FDA is fast tracking this anti-malaria drug to combat the coronavirus. So they're gonna fast track and get this thing approved. So that might be, I don't know if that's the same Bayer medicine, but that might be available sooner than we think.
I see some
Um,
chloroquine.
right, that's exactly that. The chloroquine drug designed to treat malaria has been reported to show been showing promising results against the COVID-19 symptoms. Now,
Okay.
see, I don't like that wording. Promising of results against COVID-19 symptoms.
Correct. And let me just
You
look up what malaria symptoms are.
No, COVID-19 symptoms.
Yeah, but it's a malaria drug, isn't it? For
Right. It's for malaria, but it's to treat against COVID-19 symptoms. And I don't symptoms, see, this is what the medical industry does often.
treat.
They don't cure the problem, they try to relieve the symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yep.
you can go ahead and look that up if you want to look that up.
So the symptoms of malaria, which is a mosquito-borne infectious disease that affects humans and other animals, malaria causes symptoms that typically include fever, tiredness, vomiting, and headaches.
Right. So they're saying that this drug helps the COVID-19 symptoms.
The symptoms.
Yeah, doesn't cure it. It just helps it. Um, Another Daily Wire article is the Surgeon General calls on celebrities to instruct millennials on social distancing. And I just want to point out to the LA show audience, I don't know if you guys knew, but the Attorney General is Jerome Adams, and he is a black man in his 40s who is an independent. He's not a Republican or a Democrat. I'm pretty sure most of you guys didn't know that the Attorney General was a black man. I'm pretty sure you guys didn't know that. The last Attorney General that I'm pretty sure most of you remember was Janet Reno. Also, speaking on the celebrities, me and LA were talking, and I was telling LA, the people that aren't taking this seriously, regardless of how you see it, once one of the major celebrities gets sick and die, I hate to say it like that because I don't want anybody to die from it, but once one of somebody who's loved and revered and has a large fan base, once one of those people get sick and die from this, that's when people will probably take it seriously, unfortunately. Um, Zero Hedge, Hong Kong reports the largest surge infections yet. Experts uh, warn that we're at an all-out war, basically. So Hong Kong reports the largest surge in infections, and the experts are saying that we're at an all-out war.
Speaking of Hong Kong or China in general, I wanted to let you guys know that Dr. Li Winalang, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce his last name. The man that let the cat out the bag in the first place, he was exonerated for whatever crimes that China had him under after his death. And that was reported on aljazeera.com today, March 20th.
Yeah, I have him on my list to talk about him.
Okay.
And probably no, it's good you mentioned it because I'll just say it now. He's really a hero and
Wow.
in some ways a martyr, and that's probably why, because
Wow.
the all of the public is praising Dr. Lee for telling us what he told us, because had he not told us, the world would be in a way worse situation.
Yeah.
Um, Two articles from Zero Hedge. They're about the same thing. Um, they saying now the stock market crash is worse than the Great Depression. Um, and I wanted to touch on that because my grandmother is 100 years old. She's in a nursing home, which means she's in forced quarantine. And no wedding, no none of us can go visit her. She can't leave, and she's 100 years old. She should turn 101 next month. And I remember talking to my grandmother because my grandmother was born in 1919, and I remember asking her as a little girl, what was it like living in the Depression? And my grandmother told me that her mother had three jobs during the Depression. She worked at a laundry place, the place that did laundry, and she worked in two different homes as a maid. And her father worked on their farm. They had a farm, and he had to tend to the crops and the animals, which was a full day, like a 14-hour day. And so that's how they survived, him working on the farm and my great grandmother working three jobs during the Depression. So, if these experts are right, people, we need to understand that it's potential that we could be facing. Well, they're saying we're in the depression right now, but we not feeling it yet. If this situation persists, we will definitely feel the effects of the financial depression. The next article is um, White House task force holds a Friday meeting. Trump says he doesn't want corporations spending millions of dollars on buybacks while the workers suffer. Uh, Amidst, a lot of times when you listen to and I don't have a dog in the political race, but a lot of times, you hear it's common amongst black people to bash Trump. Um, but this article, it seems that he's in support of the American public. I mean, you can take that for whatever you want. At the end of the day, he is the president, whether you like him or not, and this is what we have to deal with. Another Zero Hedge article. Trump nixed calls for a large-scale attack on Iranian proxies, citing COVID-19. So I'm going to read a little bit here. In what appears the first significant U.S. foreign policy altercation due to the coronavirus pandemic, President Trump reportedly nixed plans for a large-scale attack on Iranian proxies in Iraq last week amid a tit-for-tat following rocket attacks on a U.S. base there, which killed two Americans. The commander-in-chief specifically cited coronavirus as the reason for holding off on such a major attack, which would surely bog American forces down further in an ongoing battle against Iran inside neighboring Iraq, which Washington fears has long come under control of the Shiite clerics in Tehran. More importantly, the president thought it would look bad at the moment of a global pandemic. NBC reports President Donald Trump told his top national security advisors last week that because of the coronavirus pandemic, he didn't think that an aggressive response to new attacks on U.S. troops in Iraq by Iranian-backed militias was the right move, according to one former and four current senior U.S. officials. So it looked like we could have, if you look at the grand scope of things, it looked like we were just on the brink of probably a big war. And then this coronavirus comes out, and now Trump's caused cause a halt on this major attack that they were supposed to do. That's very interesting. Another Zero Hedge article. Is the panic worse than the virus? And this is authored by M.N. Gordon via economicprism.com. You can look that up for yourself. The Great Panic of 2020 is already one of one for the history books, yet the damage has only just begun. We suspect the stock market crash, economic destruction, and the forfeiture of freedoms will persist long after the coronavirus hobgoblin has been put to bed. With respect to the stock market, the modus operandi of the last 11 years is being stood on its head. Rather than buy the dip, the new divine mantra is sell the rip. Here's why. If you recall, the US stock market commenced a multi-year swan dive in the autumn of 1929. About that time, the economy also commenced a decade of long Great Depression. Given the rapid and relentless stock market carnage over the last month, the prospect of a lengthy depression, a closer look is in order. Meaning, basically, he's comparing the time from uh, in the autumn of 1929. The stock market had a 10-year long economic depression, and he's saying that we're well beyond that point now. So this is like what I've been telling LA off the line. I said, if this doesn't get in, because we've been talking about this offline for a long time, but since it started, and one thing I told her, I said that if this doesn't get in control, there's no rollback. It's gonna be a new America.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be a new America because every major event we've had has brought on a new stage or a new way of life in America, and this is the same. So I think people need to mentally prepare themselves for that. Um, Another article is Brussels time, and this is from Belgium. Belgian doctor says young coronavirus patients are also getting severely ill. I'm not going to read that article. I'm just putting there. It's on BrusselsTimes.com. Belgian doctor says young coronavirus patients are also getting severely ill. So the report that it's really affecting elderly people and people with um, pre-existing conditions. That's
May I
probably,
chime in on that?
yeah,
Um,
that's
Currently there is spring break going on, so there are a lot of spring break festivities going on. I have looked into several articles explaining that there are people that are catching flights that have tested positive for this. There are people that are being pretty much evicted from whatever spring break activities they're doing now. As of right now, Miami Beach will be shutting down hotels amid this coronavirus pandemic. So they're completely shutting down hotels. So whoever is down there for spring break, call them and let them know that they need to make their arrangements to get back home. So that's one thing. Then, as far as the younger generation and these concerts that's still open for whatever reason, but I do believe this concert was last week. Yes, March 13th, which is still, kind of around the time that, things were shutting down. But the Millennium Tour, a Wake County resident has came up positive for testing for the for the CV, and yeah, they're letting everybody know to call the Wake County hotline. They have a Wake County hotline for this at the PNC Arena. So that's a lot of people in one little place. And the person did say that they did go throughout the crowd. They weren't just seated. So, um, yeah, younger generation. We can catch this just as easily as anybody else can. We're not immune to anything. Um, yeah,
well, it's not about just catching it that article because I did read it. It's that they're getting young people are getting severely ill
correct.
when they get it. And the initial reports were about elderly people and people with pre-existing conditions, but this Belgian doctor is saying different. Those that concludes the articles. And the thing I was going to talk about now, I already said, and that was about Dr. Lee. Um, and now I have the issues regarding the CV, and it's just you know, not in any specific order, but just a bunch of different things that I think are concerning issues, and just stop me anytime. Well, I'll say them, and if you want to chime in on them, you just chime in on them. But the one thing is, the first one is the testing kits. We don't. There's not enough testing kits. I saw an article that I didn't put in this, where I forgot the location, but they had a testing, a drive-through testing facility, and it's just like a makeshift drive-through thing where you can just test, and it was just wrapped around the block. But there's not enough testing kits in certain high concentration cities like New York and in Los Angeles and certain areas, Seattle, certain areas that are highly concentrated. It's just not enough testing kits. Breathing machines. Breathing machines is going to be a big thing, because if you see the people who are in hospitals, whether in America or abroad, you see pretty much everybody's on a breathing machine. Some people aren't, that are doing well, but a lot of people are on breathing machines. And even if you read the articles of different people that were transported, Americans that were transported from a country back to America, initially they were on a breathing machine, and there's just not enough breathing machines to go around.
Correct. I mean, if you guys have been looking at different people explain their symptoms, which I'm looking at everybody that wants to show their face and say, yes, I have it. I'm dealing with A, B, C, and D. A lot of them are explaining that their lungs are just not producing the oxygen. They're not getting the oxygen that they need. So
Right,
yeah, we need breathing machines.
right. Um, uh, One thing that's going to be of concern, and this is what I was saying, and I think the first CV video that we did is starting now to boost your immune system, and starting now to eating a healthy lifestyle, so that if you come in contact with the virus, you're going to be in a better situation than if you hadn't done those things. And the reason why I say that is because when medical facilities get overrun by too many too many patients than they can handle, that's when we're gonna see a lot of bad things. It'll be bad, if the medical, and see, in some places the medical facilities are already overrun. And the one thing another that leads me to the next point is that medical staff getting sick. Um,
Mm.
this is the type of virus that doesn't discriminate, according to what we're being told. It doesn't discriminate. So think about medical facilities being overrun and medical staff getting sick.
Mm-hmm.
And this is leading me to the next point. It's something that LA sent me. When the looting and the chaos, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna put myself out there on a limb. And the next thing I'm saying, beware of provocateurs, meaning people who are there just to get things out of control on purpose. The reason why is because in certain cities like New York and other cities, there is already a military presence. Once chaos starts, the military will take action. And I would say that if you're in a place where there is no military presence, um, if you can safely take matters into your own hands, do so to stop a provocateur from getting it cracking.
Right.
You you don't want your area to get cracking. Trust me. Not in this situation. Not where you got a lot of places in the DMV area, New York. I think there's a little bit in Los Angeles, outside of Los Angeles. I've heard a little bit of murmurs that there's some military presence there, and some other places. You already got, I forgot, one city is already locked down. I think you got certain cities that they already got curfews. San Francisco is locked down. Los Angeles in probably 2 or 3 days will be locked down. You have, I think, a place in Georgia that is completely locked down with a curfew. The last thing you want is idiots to get it cracking, because that's when it's a problem. And that leads me to the next thing, and I'm using a code word. I forgot to tell you, LA, what this means, but if you think about it,
Mm-hmm.
how I say it, you'll get what I mean. If it gets too out of hand, they might come and get your metal protectors. They might come and get your metal protectors. They
Yeah.
might take those. They might take those away. And
Cool.
if that happens, it's the end of America as we know it. Because there's certain people they're not going to give them up. They're not going to give them up. And that's for sure. And some of them have badges. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
So I already said the next point, that was the cities going on lockdowns, national guards, and military presence. Um, be aware of the viral video frenzy. There's gonna be people during this outbreak that are gonna do stupid things for views, and there are people gonna act reckless, and you just gotta not let that affect you or people in your family or your circle, to not, because we're human beings, like to imitate each other. You see how all these challenges, people keep doing them and keep doing them. You just make sure your family and your kids and your neighbors don't fall into that, because that's just reckless behavior. And that's just not what is needed at this time. I
Yeah.
wanted to send a special prayer and shout out to YouTube content creator Chris and Pops. He's also on Instagram, whose father is sick with the coronavirus. And that goes out to anybody who hears this. If any of your family or friends are affected by it, a special shout out to you and a special prayer to you and your loved ones. Um, Now I have a question. Oh yeah, before I get to that question, I'll leave that last. Military setting up tents at a FedEx field in Maryland. There's an Army news brief going to come up on NBC News. You probably want to check that out just to see what they say.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there are different senators under scrutiny. This has just happened just before we went live, for dumping stock just before the coronavirus. Now, let me take you back. Just before the Las Vegas massacre, there was people dumping stock. In fact, the CEO of MGM dumped stock just before that event. What happened before 9/11? People dumped stock before 9/11. So just keep that in mind. That's a little weird stuff, okay? Now, the question I have is this going to lead us? Because been doing research for a long, 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 long time, and one of the biggest conspiracy theories over the last 20, maybe even 30 years, is that America was going to go to a cashless society. Is this the thing that's going to lead us to the cashless society? Because if there's a coronavirus and it's airborne and it's highly contagious, then money can be contagious, right? So is this the thing is going to lead us to a cashless society? Is there, this is another question because this is what a lot of conspiracy theorists are saying about the CV, the connection between the 5G network and its ability to manipulate uh, the virus or spread the virus or manipulate the symptoms of the virus. That's a question I'm just throwing out there. I'd be happy to see what comments you guys might have about that because maybe you guys are looking into that. Um, uh, and also you have to look at the grand scope of the 5G network in terms of what it's supposed to serve to the public in general. Is this the way to bring in a new way of living, a life of artificial intelligence and augmented reality? I don't know. I'm just saying it. I'm just asking it. Is this the last of the what we know? If this is this the beginning of the last of what we know of America as we know it?
Well, also we have to take into account that they've been promoting 5G for a long time. A lot of people, a lot of scientists have been going against it. So another question is this a way to, keep us in the blind about that too?
Yeah, there is. You can do your own research. There is a connection between the CV and and 5G. Just do your own research. You can Google that, duck go it, do it, whatever you search engine you want to use. Just look at the connection between CV and 5G because there are uh, other researchers out there that seem to believe that there is a connection between the two. I am not taking a position on that
Yeah,
personally.
I'm not either. And another question is, how many damn people really has this?
Right,
If it's so infectious, if it's so contagious, how many people are sitting on that 14-day alleged asymptomatic days?
right.
You know, how many people really have this and are spreading and you know
And you see, another thing is you see different levels of protection in terms of people dealing with people who are infected. Like I saw one gentleman who has the virus and he spoke. Now that person was in a full hazmat suit. I'm talking about with the oxygen tank and everything on their back.
hmm
I'm talking about fully, no nothing outside. Then I've seen others where they're just gloved up, masked up, and they're still in their typical hospital gear. So
but
I'm
then
like,
we have to take into account the DPA act that was just enacted by Trump, where he's trying to get the PPE and the mask and the gloves and everything that these doctors really need to them. We got to
right.
take that account too, because that DPA act is it can mean a lot. That could really change society. What if we all had to end up working, and I hate to use what ifs in research, but what if we all had to end up working in these factories to build the supply for the demand? What if?
Well,
So
that's where you that's a very interesting question because that's how America pulled itself out of depression through the Industrial Revolution.
correct. Correct. Hmm.
But yeah, that back on the point that you made about the infection, why are there different levels of protection? You know, I feel you with your. I mean, I understand people might not. This is all they have. I understand that, but if the minimum gets you by, why are the other people wearing the maximum? That's what I'm,
Well,
you know, that.
if you think about it, we're all discombobulated like that because some places are taking the stay-at-home National Guard's coming effect, the maximum, and then other places are more laxed in
Well, check
America, all
check
over the
this
world.
out. The interesting thing is that you and I watched the same video on the same day because you sent it to me and I had just watched it earlier that day. The one thing that was interesting about Vietnam is he said that 2 months before the outbreak, Vietnam locked down. So
Mm-hmm.
now the guy's saying they're pretty much normal, and they're pretty much living life like normal in Vietnam.
Correct. Correct. Some people are tracing this CV back to October when the gates really broke free. That's allegedly, and you can do
Right.
your own research to really dig into that. But some people are, saying as far back as October, people knew about this stuff. So, it's a lot of questions. It's a lot of questions surrounding this. We are trying our best to keep the information flowing and not, go along with the fear porn that's being pushed. And I can't lie, I've fallen victim to some of it, But it's not a time to be afraid. It's a time to be concerned as US citizens. It's a time to be concerned and have your eyes open and protect yourself. Um so when you're concerned, you're alert. So don't be scared. We can't move in fear now. We just got to keep watching all this stuff that's happening on the back end. That's what we really need to keep our eyes on. All these moves, all this freaking money that's coming in here. Trump said he wanted $1 trillion. It's on its way. No questions asked. So, um, but we know that the money, isn't attached to anything. So, you know, have fun with that. But it's just so interesting how all of this is moving and at the rate.
Yes.
Right now, we're at 271,629 confirmed cases around the world. We have 11,200.
Hello?
I'm sorry, we have 11,000. Can you
You
hear me?
keep Yeah, you keep cutting out when you say that number.
Somebody keeps trying to call.
Oh, okay.
11,282 total deaths, and then 87,403 recovered. So that's where we're standing as of now. So this is serious. If you ask me, if they got all of those tests in like they're supposed to, and if we had a way to actually test the amount of people that we need to test, because that's another issue. We're making these makeshift test and go places, but they're test and go places. These people are still traveling among the well. It's crazy. Is there anything that you would like to close out on, Cisco?
Um, no, I guess I want to make a disclaimer I don't want any of the information that I provided to make anybody have anxiety or fear or anything like that. It's just information, and you just gotta take it for what it is. You have a lot of people saying that the frenzy is overhyped. At the same time, they're saying that it's overhyped. In certain places, they got military driving down the street. So you know, some people are saying that, it's not as bad as it is.
Yeah,
And regardless, even if you're right, or wrong, either way it falls, the military is out there. Things are happening. Things is moving.
correct.
So that's the thing that you got to take in consideration, whether or not the virus is as infectious or deadly as they say. Things are moving. The stock market has crashed. Where the whole world is under quarantine, basically.
Under pause. People are
Yeah,
not able to run their businesses. People are not able to send their kids off for education. People are not able to graduate from all the hard work and effort that they put into school. It is a lot of stuff going down, and if you're not paying attention, that's cool. I guess you'll go through this in peace. But right now, for the people who want the information, who want to know how to move, we're here to provide that. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm not going to get myself all hyped up. I'm going to move accordingly. And I hope you guys do too. Well, we will be back with more. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And if you haven't already, go back and check what we have said in our previous videos about this. And let me know what you guys think down below. Please like this video, share this video, and subscribe to the channel. Turn on your notifications so you don't miss anything. Think I got a little bit of the shadow ban effect, so I'm trying to make sure that everybody is getting all the proper notifications. But we'll be back.